Marquez Fresh here, and we're going to get right to it. We're going to be working on a jukebox for your device, whether it be Alexa, Echo, etc. So first I grabbed my box, primed it with white, then applied this beige that I have on here. So I want to have a specific space that I'm going to cut out to be able to put my device. And what I ended up doing was just measuring out a little bit of space, kind of taping it just for reference so that I could go ahead and tape out my design around it just so I could have a visual. After that, I went through and wanted to keep a space completely unpainted so I could add the details like the buttons and the names of the artists and songs. So I went through, I used some blue painter's tape for all of this, and it worked out really well. There was a few times where I did notice that I'm not sure if it's just the tape or if it was the way I taped it. Maybe I didn't check it well enough to make sure that it went on perfect because it did end up bleeding through the tape. So I used the blue painter's tape to kind of give me a reference, and then I went over it with some black tape used for designs. It's pretty cool. It's really thin. It does bend a bit. Again, it did bleed a little bit through, and I'm not sure if that's just because the tape is a little old. Maybe it got a little wet and it's a little warped, or if it was my fault. This is the first time I was using that tape, so I was really excited. I did like how it came out, but like I said, little bit of work. It's gonna go a long way. So as you can see, I removed all the blue tape I didn't need, including the reference point, and I went straight to work with this black paint. I wanted to get a little bit of a fade from black to the blue-green that I decided to use, and I did kind of do a little bit of angle just to add something more to it, not to keep it so bland, just straight lines and everything. I wanted to add a little bit to it. And a tip whenever you're going to be using paint, spray paint at least, go ahead and test it out on a, old cardboard or paper, newspaper, old wood or whatever. Just make sure you kind of test it out and make sure it's still good, especially if you haven't used it in a while. So the jukebox became famous obviously in the 50s and 60s. So what I wanted to do was give it kind of a old diner checkered pattern kind of look. When I was looking through these, one of the things that popped out was how all diners really used to have these checkered pattern floors. So I really liked that. So what I did was just use this blue painter's tape and my X-Acto knife to make this little pattern work. And so I went over it on one side and then kind of free-handed the other side and made these squares right here so that I could go over it one time and paint this up, and then patted everything down, removed the tape, and then it came out really well. After I took all the tape off, I ended up just going over it with tape again over the spots that were already painted, and I went one way and then obviously I went the other way as well, and it was a really quick and easy way to get that checkered pattern. I've seen this done a bunch of different times on a bunch of different materials, cars and crafts and everything. and it came out nice. Again, there was some drip on both of the tapes, so I want to say that maybe I just should have taken some extra time to make sure that it was flush. And then obviously careful with my overspray. So I went in, and this is when I got to cutting that part where I wanted to put the device in. Did a couple measurements. I wanted to make sure you could be able to see it a little bit on the sides, the same way you're able to see it, the records on the real jukeboxes. And then I went with a Sharpie and just started adding some details, just to make sure that it kind of gave that jukebox a little more life. It wasn't anything really fancy. One thing I would have changed also was kind of the spacing. I was hoping to get more than 2 titles up there, but that's all I ended up with. Now, I did really like the way the fade came out, and I did like the way the checker pattern came out. And after that, all I had to do was put a clear coat on, and then get a little small hole for the power to the device, obviously. And it came out great. I could have worked on some of the details a little bit more, but hey, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you guys have any questions on some of the techniques I used in the video, go ahead, drop a comment below. If you liked it, learned anything new, hit the like, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Marquez Fresh here. Peace.